So I have updated my inquiry project presentation on Norwals. So on day one, I put all of my information into my slides. I didn't decorate it. I didn't make it pretty or fancy. I just put all my information in there. And then today, what I did is I went back through and I added pictures and videos and some color. And I also adjusted my text a little bit so that I could fit these in there. So let me show you guys what I did. So I didn't change much on these two slides. Like I told you, I put in pictures right here because there's some people that might not know what a narwhal is. I did add in a label at the bottom here so that people would know that this was an adult narwhal and this was a baby narwhal and could kind of compare them. They're both pretty big, but you can tell that the body of the baby is a little smaller. Then on this first slide, I inserted a video actually that tells a lot about the information that I would talk about here. So, remember, I had on this slide, do all narwhals have tusks? I actually had a lot more text on this. And what I did was I took that text out, and instead what I'll do when I present this is I'll have that information that I took out on a note card and I'll just talk about it. So just because it's not on my slide doesn't mean that it's not important and I'm not going to talk about it. I just needed to adjust it so that there was some information on here that really answered this question. Do all narwhals have tusks? I say no, they don't. Some have two, some have one. It's usually males. But then that extra stuff that I had on here that made my slide a little more interesting, I actually put it onto a note card, and I'll talk about those when I present. This video that I embedded actually just talks about the same kind of things that I would talk about in my presentation, and it actually goes into a little more detail. Like one of the things it talked about was how the narwhals, they don't use their tusks, remember, to hunt. It's actually used to sense things. And they also said that sometimes the narwhals touch tusks because they have like feeling receptors in them. So kind of like when we give each other a hug or a high five, it's the same thing for narwhals. They also said that they brush them together sometimes because it cleans them, kind of like when we brush our teeth. Now, really quick, before I keep going with the presentation, I wanted to show you guys how to embed a video if you wanted to. You go to Insert, Video, and then you can either search for one here. You can search for one here, or if you've already found one on YouTube, you can copy the link and you can paste the link here and it'll pop up for you, and then you can select it to put into your presentation. Here, I did the same thing. I moved my text over, and I actually didn't take any text out. I just moved it over and I added a picture. I put this picture in here because it tells you about how deep a narwhal can dive. It kind of shows this narwhal is pretty far away from whatever this animal is. I think it might actually be a whale, and it kind of shows you about how far from the surface they are. And remember down here, I had told you guys that with this information, I would input a map. So what I did is I actually did that on the next slide. So here are the 4 countries that I talk about the narwhals live by. They live by the water by Russia, Norway, Greenland, and Canada. So they actually live in all these little areas of water where it's really cold. And then on my last slide, when I talked about the threats that they face, remember I had said that killer whales are their predators, but a lot of their things that threaten them, so affect their possible continuing to survive, was things like climate change. And so what I did was I put a little map that talked about in 1984 and 2019, the difference in the ice melting, because where they live, it's really cold and they need that ice to survive. And this shows how the ice has melted. So what I want you guys to see is that I went back and I edited things. I took things out that I would instead put on post-it notes or note cards. I added pictures and videos. Make it as interesting as possible for your audience.